the process of me reacting to you not being easily won over makes me feel insecure. Like I said, people tend to fall in love with people who create some sense of insecurity. And nothing creates more insecurity than
like a boss.
if you look back at the dark ages of dating, you'll notice that there were a lot of obstacles for a man to get some poom poom and for a woman to get married, right? As a man, you just couldn't holler at a girl, at a prehistoric chick, and just say, "Hey, girl, what's your number, right? What's your geolocation, some shit like that, right?" No, a guy had to win over the family, right? A guy had to win over the dad, the mom, the siblings, the whole family, the whole shebang bang. And then the guy had to give the family a goat, a few cows. There was a lot of work. There was a lot of investment just to get married with a woman, right? And that job, that work, going out of his way and doing all of that, walking around and wooing, created an emotional attachment that the guy felt like he won her over. Humans had a societal structure through religion and whatnot that allowed them to not be easily won over because of society, the structure. Dad, mom was there, right? You gotta give my woman this, my daughter this and that, right? And so people didn't need to act, you as a person, the individual, didn't need to act hard to get because of that. Because there were just so many restraints around you that you naturally played hard to get, even though you didn't want to do that. But because we don't have that no more, we have to do it consciously and play this game. Because before, the society created those structures so that you didn't need to play the game. Now, for women at that time, the women, even though she wanted his holy dizzy, right? She had to act coy. She had to act like she has chastity, and above all, she had to act like she has self-constraint. So because of that, even though she wanted the guy, she had to act like she was choosing her options. She had to act with some dignity, royalness, not get too needy, right? Be more distant. In fact, her family used to coach her. And the way that they coached her was very simple. Her family didn't tell her double text him. The family didn't tell her, "Oh, he's just sad. Go hit him up, right? Show some support even though he's pulling away." No. The family said, "Let him come to you." The family said, "You're worth this price, 3 or 4 goats, and you're not gonna be with him until he gives you that." In other words, they were coaching their daughters to not be easily won over, because it was a negotiation. They were negotiating prices, and it naturally came with negotiation strategies where you don't act like you want it so badly, where you act like you have more than you really have, where you act like you're willing to walk away. Your parents used to do that for you and used to represent you. All you had to do was just be there and smile, right? And guys had to do that similar thing to her. So the guy had to woo the woman more. The woman had to act like she was more relaxed, like she didn't want it as much as she wanted it, right? Because as the guy, if she acted like she wanted it real bad, you could just lower the price. I'm not gonna give you 3 goats for her. I'm gonna give you 2 goats for her, man. Come on, man. These are some good prehistoric prices. And because of that, it created an attachment between the person and the other person that just isn't comparable today. Why? Because the culture today is just so easy to meet each other. There are people watching us. So there are people. People are not watching us as much as before. So the woman tends to behave when she knows that her family members are observing her deeply. But when she goes to a new city, new country, nobody's watching her. So that self-constraint goes away because she doesn't feel the judgment of others, right? And because of those social structures that we have lost, because we have became more progressive, we lost religion, there are some rituals that we had in culture that force people to try harder. It causes people to lower each other's prices. Women lower their prices and men try less, right? And what tends to happen? Yes, it means more action, right? Holy movement, right? But also it devalues each other because we're so accessible. We do it with so many people relative to before that each person we meet has it less value simply because there's just more options, especially if it's online. And that's problematic. That's problematic because we internalize this, especially with online dating. When there's so many options, people treat us like an option. And if you're only online, you're gonna internalize that, and you gotta realize you are your ugliest online, right? So let's talk about this, right? So remember, people fall in love with you when you're not easily attainable simply because we've been wired to be more difficult. Everything was more difficult back then. So we're wired to value what's difficult. The problem is that people don't have a need for that, or they don't see the need for it. So let me tell you why, right? What you want to be able to do to prevent this from happening, right? To make it more difficult, because at the end of the day, this takes self-constraint. The only reason why we did it before was because we had family members looking over us. And as a guy, simply because there were barriers between her and between us and the pum pum we went. There was barriers between us and her. So we had to, like, when the dad is there as a guy, you think I'm gonna go up to dad like this? Father Tyrone? No, I'm gonna go up like put this, hey, be more polite. You're gonna notice that the presence of her family will make the guy more romantic, right? But also as a guy, the woman's restraint, the woman's self-control makes me try harder, right? And then and the other thing about this is the fact that I'm trying so hard makes me like her more. That's just how that works. And this works in the opposite as well, right? Where I'm not easily impressed by you. I'm not that easily won over by you. Just because you look so attractive, right? Doesn't mean that what else do you have to offer, right? Because back then, women not only were good looking, even still today, but also they had to develop skills, right? And so women back then had a lot to offer when it came to the fit-in gender roles. So I want to be able to talk about how you guys can replicate this in this modern society, right? So remember, don't allow your fantasies to make a conclusion about this person. When you first see the person, you're gonna start assuming certain things about their personality. And if they kind of fit what you want, like for example, if you're dating me and you like freaking, I don't know, Jimi Hendrix, right? And you're like, oh my God, I got my own modern day Jimi Hendrix, right? If you allow that fantasy to take hold, you're gonna stop seeing me and you're gonna start falling in love with the fantasy. And that's gonna make you so emotional because you're seeing something that was from your fantasy become true, that your standards will lower because you want me so much. That's how that works, right? Since there's nobody watching you or judging your actions and how available you are, there's nobody telling you to slow the fuck down, naturally you're gonna go off of your impulses. And when we fall in love, when we like people, we're more prone to impulsive decisions. So don't allow the fantasies. Shut those fantasies down. So when I meet someone and I like her, I'm like, okay, and I'm seeing a fantasy of how awesome she is and how potentially this relationship could be. I tell myself, lower your expectations. She is not who you think she is. Relax. This might not work out. This allows me to literally lower my emotional reaction to it. And this allows me to not be so easily won over by her. Rather than seeing her and seeing the fantasy, which the fantasy already won me over, I see her and I discard the fantasy and say, she is not who I see in my mind. Who is she? That's the type of mentality. And because of that, you keep that in your mind. You say to yourself, this person is not who I think it is. We just fall in love with your brain's reaction to who they appear to be. And we don't really end up falling in love with who they really are. And that tends to lower your value because you just seem gullible. People genuinely assume that if you fall in love this quickly with me, that means you fall in love with everyone else. If you're harder to impress, harder to win over, harder to fall in love, people will say, okay, this person is a challenge. This person is not easily won over. And as a result, I gotta try harder. I gotta be more romantic. I gotta do that special move I only do on people who I like. But too many people just want to fall in the arm of the first person that comes. And people, even though they accept what you're giving them, they're going to say, did they do that with everyone else? They may not think of it, but emotionally, that's what they're going to feel. So you have to have some restraint. If you're a guy, I swear to God, like I learned this. If you're a guy, it's much better if you're dating a girl, friend zone her. Don't be so quick to make a move, right? As long as you have confidence, as long as you show confidence, don't be so quick to make a move. Simply because what I notice is that if you restrain yourself and you're more friendly than trying to make a move, people generally say, okay, like, why aren't they trying to make a move on me? So learning to prolong the dating process, right? As long as you're not broke, right? Because then if you prolong it, you may go in debt, right? But as long as you prolong the dating process, it fucks with people. It makes them want you more. You look more patient, you look more attractive, right? But when you try to speed it up, even though they may want you to speed it up, what they do is that they say, okay, this person, I won them over. I got this person. Be more difficult. Have some self-constraint. Me personally, I try not to kiss, like me, I try not to kiss a girl on the first date. Like I really, that was my goal. But now my goal is to get to know her, to sense how she is, her personality, if she's funny, if she's interesting. And I tend to not try to make a move. And partly is because maybe I'm getting older and your testosterone lowers as a result of that, which is actually a good thing, right? You're not controlled by your date, right? But essentially though, is that it gives the impression to women that you're not easily won over. And it's the same thing with everyone. You have to give that impression, or else they just won't value what you give, even though what you give is good. The next thing is that you have to be willing to show negative emotions, right? When you're not easily won over, what will happen is that people are gonna sense that, like, it's like a boss that's hard to impress, right? You have more moments when you feel like you're losing them than winning them over. And the moments you feel like you're losing them are moments when you or the other person is fucking up, and they show their disappointment in their face. When you are trying to win someone over, you are afraid to show negative emotions because you don't want to risk losing them. But you have to be able to show those negative emotions when they fuck up, and not hide it and not suppress it and not act like nothing happened, right? People who are not easily won over are more willing to show displeasurement, boredom, bored, being tired. They're more willing to yawn. Like there's more range of emotions that they show, and that will give them that impression that you're not easily won over. The next thing is that you don't allow uncomfortable emotions to dictate your actions. Even though you feel desperate, they're making you wait, even though you really want them, you don't allow that the emotion of desire to push you to seek validation, to suppress those emotions. Usually people seek validation to suppress emotions. And that's what tends to hurt them in the dating process, right? So you can't react to those uncomfortable feelings in dating with getting validation, because so what's gonna happen? Anytime you feel bad, you're gonna get their validation. You're just gonna suffocate them, and you're gonna show that you're like a puppy that wants to be adopted. Like you're like, like what the fuck? Like what? No, dude. Like what the hell? Act like you're adopted, man. Show some pride. Like you can't act. In fact, act like a cat that doesn't want to get adopted. A lot of the neediness usually comes because you're trying to run away from pain, and you're using them as a vessel to deal with your emotions. And it becomes a lifelong habit to use other people to suppress emotions. That's why you have to develop a meditation practice. A meditation practice will end this seeking behavior to feel better. And the only time you're gonna seek them is because you actually like them, not because you're using them as a vessel to release pent-up tension. Whenever you've become your own source of positive emotions, neediness goes away, and you become more, you're not easily won over, because usually a lot of people just become easily won over, not because they're ugly, but because they're sad, they're depressed, they're anxious, they're impatient, and those emotions are unbearable for them. So they use the other person's validation to suppress it. If you just learn to deal with those negative emotions, you're just gonna be harder to please, because you already please yourself. I have everything that I need from my own self. Like in my experience, when a woman does this, and a lot of guys, the process of me reacting to you not being easily won over makes me feel insecure. Like I said, people tend to fall in love with people who create some sense of insecurity. And nothing creates more insecurity than sensing that you're losing a person, or sensing that the person's energy has lowered. And what would happen is that my reaction to you, if I like you, the positive emotions that I feel it's almost like fuel or dead leaves that creates fire. Those emotions will, my reaction to your sudden coldness, my reaction to you being a little bit more difficult will create, my reaction will be like a fire of emotions, right? And when you finally show us, when you finally show them the happy face, or when you finally show them a face of that you're pleased, right? Because you sometimes show face an expression of being displeased, an expression of boredom. When you finally show them the warm side, they end up falling in love with you harder, right? But the problem is that we tend to avoid creating this dynamic. You gotta understand that humans are wired for this. This is how things have been for millennia, for hundreds of thousands of years. Most human societies had a structure where people had a fake acting like they didn't want it as much. Not for your value, but because of the family. If the family has a prehistoric needy person, it's gonna ruin the whole family, right? So this is why. And when you're acting, and one of the things I want you to understand is that the playing hard to get always comes with respect. You gotta stop thinking that people are gonna react positively to your positive emotions. No. People react more positively to your negative emotions because they react with wanting your validation. Just have self-constraint, self-control. Don't be so easily, don't let your fantasies tell you you finally found the one. Tell your fantasies to go to hell. No, don't go to hell, right? Tell your fantasies to calm down and tell yourself, what else do they have to offer? This might not work out. When you tell yourself that this person might not be the person, even though my mind is telling me, this might be the last time I see this person, or this might not go past a month. I am telling you this only for those people who their mind starts creating a freaking Disney fantasy. And you start to believe that fantasy, and you start to act as though you're in that fantasy and start acting like Snow White looking at your Prince Charming. Like, no, motherfucker, this is not Disney, this is Earth. You get what I'm saying? So I learned this in my life, and what I noticed is that when women do this to me, like when they're harder to get, when they're not easily won over, there's a sense of anxiety not behind almost every interaction, but there's a lingering sense of anxiety at the thought that I am not impressing them, and it makes me be more romantic towards that person. And if they're not being romantic with you, it's because you gave them the impression that you have been won over. Women will give me more gifts. They'll do more things for me when they get that feeling. You get what I'm saying? Now, the issue with me is that I could be a little cold out of nature. You know, like I really don't do this intentionally. Seriously, I really don't. Stop looking at me like that. Right? But when I notice when it's done to me and when I do it to other people unconsciously, this is just the reaction you get out of them. People end up falling in love with you quicker. Like, this person will fall in love with you, but this process will accelerate the process of falling in love. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. This 100% works, because this even works when you're negotiating, man. This works in every type of negotiation, and you're always negotiating when it comes to love. All right? Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys want to work with me one-on-one, go to myforattraction.org, or else I'm closing the channel. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys ever want to learn how to use your feminine energy to influence people, learn how to use your masculine energy to become more assertive, and also learn how to blend both energies to improve your dating life, your spiritual life, honestly, your relationship life, your family life, your career life, this is the course for you. If I had to make a course for my nieces, I have two nieces, one is 19 and one is 15. 16. Holy shit. Oh my God, he's a bad fucking uncle. He's a bad uncle. Get him. Shut up, Melissa. You should get this course, right? And this is the course that I will make for them. So, for example, watch the curriculum, right? In the first week, we're going to be showing you how to establish a strong masculine foundation without letting it hurt your feminine energy. This masculine foundation is a source of who you are, right? It's your bodyguard. Without this, whatever feminine energy you create will be destroyed by the outside, because your masculine is your shield. So we'll talk about goal setting. We'll talk about how to develop a serious attitude. We're gonna be talking about how to use more logic, how to use more goal-oriented behavior. It's more how to be a man. Now the next one is how to embrace the feminine energy, right? This one will teach you about how to minimize excessive masculine traits, developing self-awareness, healing abundant feminine energy, regulating your emotion, mastering voice qualities and facial expressions, surrendering control, and allowing pain to be felt. This is honestly, this will supercharge, like Kaioken, your masculine energy. After that, we have femininity in the workplace, and how to be feminine in the workplace without letting people take advantage of you, and the nuances of how women of power should behave versus women who are subordinates in the workplace, and even the dress code. This is based on psychology, people. It's kind of insane. I'm actually excited about this one. The next week, we talk about navigating the labyrinth of male and female friendship, and this a lot of women find confusing, so we talk about that. And how to identify envious friends, how to identify the good friends, how to keep male friends, and how to keep female friends. Week 5, we talk about how to release the burden of the past and stop and destroy mental projections. This is actually really powerful. And then week 6, we talk about how to increase your observational power so that you could read people better. And we have a bunch of bonuses. The course starts at $99, and you guys can pre-order the course today at $69 before it goes out. If you're watching this, most likely I'm in the meditation retreat, so I will be praying for all of you guys. And just click on the description down below of the video. Right there, you'll see it, and you could pre-order that course. It's gonna be out by the end of next month or the beginning of February of March. One of the two, people, because I have a 10-day retreat to do, and I want to finish the course after the retreat, because I think the ideas are gonna be so much better. All right, man. I'll see you guys later. Pre-order, man. I'm closing the channel.